As an innovation space capable of attracting professionals, what is your relationship with the SMEs of the city of Genova? Is there a relationship between aspiring startups and SMEs?
Hi everyone, my name is Riccardo Prosperi. I am the CTO and CFO of Talent Garden Genoa, which is a co-working space based in Genoa in northern Italy. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means for a co-working space like ours, an innovation space, to interact with SMEs and how do we work with those and what can we do for those. Also, what are the difference between different kind of SMEs. And then I'm going to give you a sort of a case study, a practical case of what we have done lastly about innovation events here in Genoa. Talent Garden is a co-working network made of 27 co-working spaces throughout Europe, and Talent Garden Genoa is open since 2013, so we've been operating for 8 years here in Genoa. Our premises are based inside a science park, so this is a very specific kind of co-working space because being so close to a high technology environment, we are very vertical on digital and technology. Other campuses inside our network are more focused on different kind of sectors. So, for example, the one in Milan is focused on the food and healthcare and so on. And here in Genoa, we are starting the opening of a new campus in the center of the city, because this one is a little bit on the outskirts. And so we are going to open ourselves to a completely different, I have to say, target of customers. And well, we can start with the first topic today, which is how do SMEs interact with innovation spaces and co-working spaces in particular. First thing to say is that it's quite hard to describe SMEs as a uniform target. There are, even if you start thinking about the definition of SMEs, it says that SMEs are divided itself in three subsets, which are micro enterprises, medium enterprises, and small enterprises. Even if you start building a sort of matrix where you have on one axis you got the size of the enterprise, and on the other axis you got the sector in which they work in. You already got a matrix with a lot of different cells, and every every cell, I have to say, interact in a different way with a space and an entity like ours. And then you have to add other qualitative features, and you have to add z axis to that. So you got a 3D matrix, and each one of the cells of the matrix are, let's say, painted with a different color. And if you are familiar with the way baseball player are weighted statistically, each one of those has a different color in a matrix that depends on where the pitched ball gets to them. And this is very close to us. I mean, if your enterprises fall in a different sector, let's say in a different cell of this matrix, we are going to interact with that in a different way. Let's take from some example. Let's start with just the dimension factor. We interact very well with micro enterprises, so those enterprises where the headcount is below 10 people. That's just because our co-working campus are not huge. I mean, here in the science park, we got space for 60 people. In the new premises, we will have 100 people. So let's say in total, with 2 campuses in the same city, we're going to have, let's say, 160 people inside. And obviously, you can't host an enterprise that itself is made by 100 people, because otherwise your entire ecosystem will collapse. We'll talk about this later, but basically our ecosystem is based on diversity, and you can't allow an innovation ecosystem to be dominated by just one entity. So the thing is, it's very good for us and very good for our customer if there are many small entities within our working space. But on the other end, it's quite easier for us to work with larger enterprises, because they can divide themselves in fully working independent offices. So, for example, we got inside our working space, we got some people from Alten, which is a very, I would say, huge engineering consultant firm. I think they got 10,000 people all around the world, so it's very big. And but they set up an independent office inside our premises, which is made up of 10 people, for example. But they're not, of course, an SME. But that is to say that it's easier for us to work with very small SMEs, so micro enterprises, and spin-off at a very early stage of their life, or with huge enterprises, huge corporation, because they have the ability to work organized in different unity, while a medium enterprise can get some difficulty in that. And as I wanted, you will see going on, these medium-sized enterprises are the hardest for us to work with, because they're not small enough to be completely inside our space, and on the other end are not complex enough to be divided in different working units. So they tend to work all together in the same premises, and they don't see any advantage in just putting an office inside a co-working space. And another difference this time is a qualitative difference, not quantitative. So the problem is, here in Genoa, most of the small enterprises are not only family owned, but they are family managed, which is different. And but being family managed from generation and generation of different, we can say, entrepreneurs, they got quite traditional way of managing. So maybe sometimes they can't see the advantages in working inside a contamination and innovation environment. So it's quite difficult for us to reach them.
How do you work? What do you have to offer? What is the benefit you give to the city of Genova?
Okay, a few moments ago, I was talking about the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is the way we try to build our working spaces and our network. And we take inspiration on the same model on which Science Park are based. And it is called the triple helix model. And this is called in this way because a science park is usually built around 3 types of entities, which are the academia, the public institution, and the industry. In our case, we are talking, of course, about a smaller ecosystem, at least in physical sense. We are talking about professionals, SMEs, which are the point of our talk today, and at the same time, academia and the public institution. And we can say that those are some sort of external elements to our ecosystem, but they are vital to that. And I'm talking about the ecosystem because it's very interesting to understand how SMEs can interact with us and how can we maximize the way that they are involved. The way we work is trying to establish what we call a boundary object within our ecosystem. And those are objects that we can use to establish a relationship between all these different elements I was talking about. And it's not easy, I have to say, because each one of your customer segments are interested usually in different things. But with experience, not only our experience, but also the one that we can gather from other campus, from people that try to do that before us, we managed to establish some sort of let's call it a workflow to be able to involve these SMEs that, as I was saying before, they are probably the most difficult entity to interact with within our ecosystem. And I say they are difficult to work with, not because they are less competent or less innovative by themselves, but it's just, as I said, that their dimension make a little bit harder for us to work with them. But it's interesting to say that specific kind of SMEs, so the startup and academic spin-off, they work very easily for us because they start with very small dimension. They need a lot of flexibility in how they manage their working space. Maybe 1 month they need room for 6 people, then the next month they just need for 2, and then the next month again they need an external team from some sort of advisory group, so they need more space again, but just for a very limited time. And so we can provide this kind of flexibility just because we don't work with the mindset of someone who is just renting a space, but we are giving a service to our customers. And by involving all this, as I said, technological startup and spin-off, we usually try to build as a boundary object some events that involve not only those, but also these other elements in our ecosystem, in our network, that are the academia and the industry. By building this sort of interest around our startups, that itself allow us to gather the interest of the largest industrial entity and institution in the region. We basically build enough critical mass to be able to reach also these SMEs that by themselves, whether because they are not directly involved with technology, or because, as I say, they are not, let's say, innovation minded, even if they maybe work in a very high-tech environment, it could be like that. But we managed to reach them, and almost serendipitously, just by having them in the attendance of one of our events, and not necessarily by having them as as the stars of the event, we managed to put them in contact with these other smaller startups or spin-off, whether they come from, let's say, the university or maybe from a research institute. And we managed to create those relationships that in the wild are quite difficult to be born uh, by working in a, let's say, uh, tailor-made environment. We can, let's say, force a little bit this kind of relationship, and in this way we can build innovation. This has happened a lot of time inside our working spaces, and we manage in this way to create to help to create some new product and some new enterprises. They can be just very short term entity, like a collaboration between two entities with different size, and on the other hand, they can also become a more stable relationship, which can end up with the creation of a completely new enterprise made by the fusion of two of these different entities. One interesting.
You have just organized Beyond Net Zero, the innovative hackathon promoted and organized by ERG, in collaboration with Talent Garden Genova. What are the advantages to the city of this type of event?
One interesting case study that can exemplify quite easily the way we work is the last event we organized. It was just last October, so just a few days ago, and it was an hackathon. So as it was a idea competition, which we designed for ERG, which is a big energy company here in Genoa. It's probably one of the largest company in the city. It's definitely not an SME, and but they ask us to develop this kind of competition for university students, and the aim was to get some proposal for what the company vision in the next 30 year will be regarding the sustainability aspect, both social and environmental. And I'm talking about this because, as I said, ERG is not an SME, but in the design phase of the event, we managed to get some of these SME in our network involved by involving them in the say incubation phase of the various ideas that were competing against each other. Because when we usually design this kind of event, we usually reserve some say some seats in the judge panels to institution and academia personality. But when it comes to the mentors, so the people who are going to help the students to develop their own ideas, and specifically in this case, we had 2 days here in our where the student could work in our campus, and then we let them 10 days to develop the idea independently. Well, in these 2 days where they were in our premises, we made them work side by side with these mentors, and most of those were coming not from large corporation, but from SMEs or startups from the Genoa area, and that was because we specifically wanted to give our customer, that in that case was a corporation, to give them a fresher look at the possible vision they could mm, embrace for the next decades, and that's what they wanted. And so we thought that, of course, the student, the young movement, was the best target for the mm, those who will take part of the competition, but also making them work side by side with something different than what our customer usually work with. It was worth trying, and we are very very satisfied with the results, because of course our customer was extremely let's say surprised, favorably surprised by the quality of the output, and also because some of the SMEs that we involved with uh, as mentors, they started to make new contacts with the our customer, which is a big enterprise. So it's a big value for these SMEs to be able um, to strike, if not new deals, at least to take a new contact, to have to enlarge their network, which is one of the most difficult thing to say to do for those enterprises. And also in this way, we let's say, as a manner of speaking, we steer the pot of innovation in our area, and so there are also many positive spillovers for all the areas, not only because research demonstrates that around the co-working space there are usually and so this thing we are doing, so creating new contacts and creating new relationship between entities with very large different size. It's, let's call it like steering the pot of the innovation a little bit. It's not only have a very favorable impact on those directly involved, but it also has good spillovers on the whole city ecosystem. For example, this hackathon we have organized, it was covered not only by the regional media, but it got some coverage also on national and international media. So it was very good for the city to be covered in the media that cover innovation events and so on, because it make the city more interesting for enterprises that are wanting to invest in innovation and are looking for new shores to set their enterprises, their premises. Sorry. And also, there's another interesting thing about the favorable spillover that co-working space can give to a city. And the thing is, there is a research that demonstrates that in the area where co-working space set their premises, there are usually a rise in the amount of young and affluent people that going to live in that area. So people with good works, good jobs, sorry, and medium to high spending capacity. So that's good for the, let's say, renovation of some area of the city which got maybe depressed by previous basically socio-economical events. For example, in Genoa was our city was known as a city of heavy industry. So we got naval yards and so on, steel mills and so on. But it is now partially a thing of the past because the whole economic scenario is completely different now, and the city is starting to become a sort of high-tech industrial pole, which was something that it wasn't in the past decades. And in some way, our co-working spaces are helping in creating this environment, this ecosystem, as I said before, that not only help the small enterprises to thrive, but also give the largest enterprise something to scouting on, and a whole landscape of smaller enterprise that can use for not only customers but also as a part of their supply chain or knowledge chain also. So by doing this, as I said, we were trying in our let's say almost serendipitous way, because we this thing that we research, but we try not to force enterprises or our customer to do things they don't want to do. We are not incubators. We are not trying to teach anyone anything. We're just trying to create, as I say, an environment where people, professional and enterprises can thrive, as I said, in a serendipitous way.